You are watching Co-op for Two. I'm Jesse Reichler. And today we're going to play one of these Echoes games. These are mystery deductive games, but focused entirely on audio. Let's start by going down to the table and seeing how it plays. Echoes is a series of small box deductive mystery games that involve listening to audio clues played by an app and trying to reconstruct the chronological order of the audio clues in order to make sense of a mystery. It's essentially a solo game, though the box suggests it can be played by 1 to 6 players making joint decisions. The first two games in the Echoes series were designed by Dave Neal and Matthew Dunstan and were published by Ravensburger in 2021. The game box lists a playtime of 60 minutes. Each box is a one-shot mystery intended to be played only once. No game pieces are altered during playing, so it can be passed on or sold when finished. It's a pure logic and deduction game. There's no luck or randomization and no time limit. Players simply continue until they have solved the mystery correctly. Each of the two initial Echoes boxes consists of 6 chapter cards and 18 item cards, depicting one item each. Players first listen to a prologue audio segment in the app, and may then listen to the audio snippet associated with each card, referred to by the game as the item's echo, by scanning the card using their phone or tablet camera. The goal is to solve each chapter by figuring out both the chronological order of the 6 chapters and the chronological order of the 3 item cards within each chapter. Players submit their solutions by scanning items in the correct chronological order. If an incorrect solution is submitted, the app will provide some vague feedback to help players identify which cards are in the wrong order. Additional hints are available within the app for players who find the game too difficult. After players have found the correct solution, an epilogue story will play, describing the final solution to the mystery as a reward. So, I just got back from Gen Con 2021 and picked up these two copies, 2 different games of Echoes. There's actually a third advertised on the website or in the app. And I'd heard about these. They're short games, and they look intriguing, all focused on audio. There have been some audio-specific sort of detective games, not board games per se, but there's an Amazon Tap one that came out. But as a fan of these detective games, mystery solving games, these were an auto purchase for me. But I noticed something that I hadn't heard of before when I was reading about these, that I only noticed when I picked it up, which is, look at the author here, Dave Neal and Matthew Dunstan. Well, Dave Neal, if you watch this channel, should be quite familiar to you, because he's the designer of the latest Sherlock Holmes Consulting detective box, the Baker Street Irregulars, which I gushed over. I mean, the writing in that is phenomenal. And I've talked a little bit with Dave Neal on the BGG forums about his cases, and he's just, he's a new designer, but he's really knocking it out of the park lately. So, this is going to be a tricky one to pull off, and we'll see. We've given him enough praise that if we don't like it, I won't feel too bad about saying bad things. So anyway, we're going to play one of these. I've got my earbuds and the app so that we can record everything and you can listen along with me if you want to play. And let's see, let's start up the app here. And I'm going to be able to hear it, and you'll be able to hear it as well. All right, so here are the 2 games we can play. We're hearing music now. I don't know if you can hear it as well. Let's just start with the first one, the dancer. We'll put this off to the side. And here we go. The ghost of a young girl haunts the halls of a stately Scottish manor. Gather clues as you listen to the fragments of her tragic story and solve the mystery of her death. So let's listen to the introduction.
Harry Fincher and his wife Claire had always dreamed of a home in the Scottish countryside, and Chol House was perfect for them. The previous owner boarded it up in 1928, and the place had been left undisturbed for over 80 years. The house still contained some of the previous owner's possessions, most of which Harry threw away. But he kept some of the more interesting items, including a small figure of a ballet dancer, apparently taken from a music box. Shortly after they moved into Chol House, Harry and Claire began hearing strange sounds at night, banging and tapping, often from the room where Harry found the dancer. Once, Harry heard music, and he got out of bed to look for the source. In the moonlight filtering through the thick glass panes of the windows, he thought he saw a girl at the foot of the stairs. He blinked, and she was gone. The Finchers were terrified that their home was haunted, so they asked the locals if anything tragic had ever happened at Chol House. They learned that the death of a girl named Esther Borland was linked to the house, and that no one really knew the true events that led to her death. Harry realizes the girl he saw must be Esther. He and Claire find Esther's grave in the cemetery, and notice it is topped with a small stone dancer. Desperate to lay Esther's ghost to rest, the Finchers contact you for help, and they gather together everything that may have belonged to the previous owner. They want you to use your powers to discover the events surrounding Esther's death and learn why she is still clinging to this world.
Okay, so it sounds like a little bit of paranormal mystery rather than a straight up detective game. Alright, let's follow the rules for setup. Game materials out. We've got our chapter markers on hard cardboard, and then we've got our 18 item cards. Now, an interesting part about the rule is that in order to make it a little easier for you, the cards are marked, some of them, with a little symbol. That's the symbols on the back. And you can see there are these little keywords if you want to type it in if your tablet is not scanning. Okay, so you can see these symbols with the little diamond are to make the game a little more manageable by saying that you're not going to use those half. So 9 each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these 9 are for the last 3 chapters of the game. So it just makes it a little simpler by saying for the first 3 chapters, you know it's going to be from this set, and then from the second 3 chapters, this set. I believe the game says that you can try a harder game by not separating those, which is quite clever. But we'll try the first 3 first. Now, are the same markers on these chapters? No, so we don't know which are the first 3 chapters. All right. Let's see what else. Anything else we're missing? Those 9 are set aside. We'll play those. I guess we'll put these over here. We'll play those on the second half of the game. We've got our 6 chapter cards, which we can lay out so you guys can see well. Those are our 6 chapter cards. We've got our notepad should we need it. And then we've got some item cards, which I want you to be able to see. I guess you don't need this. I guess you can see this pretty well on the front camera. We're a little too zoomed in to see it on the top-down camera. Okay, so there's our 6. Maybe we can get these in a row since these are quite different. Can we fit these on? Certainly you can see it in the top-down camera. I mean in the front camera. All right, maybe we'll put the ones that are a little odd off in the center somewhere. There's a shoe. Okay. So those are our 6 chapter markers. We don't know what order they're in. And here are our item cards. So remember, there's 3 item cards going to be associated with each chapter. We're just got the first 3 chapters we're trying to identify. We don't know which of these 6 are the first 3, but we have to get everything in the right order. Okay, and we listen to the prologue. We know someone died in his house. We don't know why. We know she's got this ballerina thing. Okay, and the way the game works is we can just start scanning things. But now, I believe we only scan the item cards, not the chapter cards. Let's see, listen to each of the 18 item cards and 6 chapter cards. So the chapter cards have echoes too. Okay, well, I mean, let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got a police station constable. We've got a tap dance book, phone, a broken record. We've got a drinking glass. We've got this tag that says McLean, Chawl House, claim check. Okay, claim check from someone. It says Airways, so an airplane claim check. Paintbrush, the ballerina doll. We've got a railroad ticket. Let's take a look at the details of this here. So it's for M81 Railroad Company. First class ticket, July 22nd. Platform 9 3/4. Can't tell what year. Okay, then we've got a welcome mat. We've got £5 and 3 shillings. We've got a tap dance second place National Association Award. We've got a broken piece of molding. Got a shoe, looks like a child's shoe with paint on it. And we've got what looks like a tap dancing shoe. All right, well, let's start with the tap dancing shoe here. So we're going to hold it in front of the camera, and now we can listen to the sound.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
Okay, so she was dancing, tap dancing. Sound like a little Irish dance here. She said, change out of your shoe. I'll show you something you might like. Listen to that again.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
So her teacher just said, time for a rest, I'll show you something you might like. Well, I mean, of these things, maybe this is what she's showing her? Same footsteps.
Why did I take you?
It kind of sounded like the tap dance teacher showed her this, and she stole it. That's kind of what it sounded like to me. I mean, that may be an early leap of faith, but that's interesting. Okay, but she could have stolen the glass. So we don't even. Well, if this belongs to this, then this is in one. Then this is one of the first 3 chapters. All right. Let's see if we can. This is the blue paint. I mean, these are surely going together. Curious what this is.
Please open. Please open.
All right, well, she's locked in somewhere. Where would she be locked in? This may not even be related to these cards, remember? Because only 3 of these are for us. Okay, let's see what this money is related to. So far, the camera is doing a good job of recognizing things.
Thank you, Esther, for paying for today's lesson. Come in.
Okay. Well, I should have zoomed out a little bit more. I guess I'm going to put these here. I don't think this is related to today's mystery, but she's paying for a lesson, and here she is tap dancing. These are 2 chapters, though. That makes me think that this was her first lesson, and then she was dancing and doing better. Let's see.
Change into your shoes and we'll begin.
All right. Well, I mean, this seems like this. She's paying for a lesson. They're dancing. This is the same music we heard here, though. So, like, would it make sense that this is part of this? This is the lesson. This is the same music. Did we hear that same music here?
Thank you,
music.
Esther, for paying for today's lesson. Come in.
Esther was her name. Police station phone call. Well, let's see if the phone call is setting up the lesson or something else terrible afterwards.
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance and the police. She's dead.
Well, that sounded like the teacher calling, and there's the police. So maybe we'll set these aside. That definitely sounds like it's happening later on. She got locked in somewhere. Let's see if this tap dancing is before she started her lessons or afterwards.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Well, that certainly sounds like after the disaster or whatever disaster happened. Let's see. Let's see what this one sounds like.
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
And that sounded like the teacher came in and discovered the body, possibly. So I wonder if... I really shouldn't have zoomed in so much. Let's see what this one sounds like. Feels like maybe this is the part of the game where you should keep an open mind and just listen to things. Someone just walking up to a door and going in. That's not very useful. These were all sort of crying, right? The tap dance book was crying?
Okay, we'll get back to you.
That almost sounded like the police voice. Let's listen to this.
So you have no idea how this happened?
No. No idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
Right. I mean, it sounds like... well, first of all, that was not the police officer in this one. Same voice as this one. Okay, so sounds like the teacher comes and discovers her dead in a small closet. She locked herself in. It almost sounds like she stole the figurine that the teacher showed her. Then she tried to return it. And then maybe the woman is trying to escape. But no, she called the police. So... And then this is where she discovered the body. She got locked in. She couldn't get out. Says, why did I steal? Now, what's the painting all about, though? Like, I mean, the teacher called the police when she finds the dead body. So it's not like the teacher's trying to cover up this murder. Oh, that's weird. just the dancing sound again.
I'm very hot.
I'll open the window.
This is more music. And this is music also. Let's listen to the rest of these.
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
Okay, this was calling the police about the trouble. Let's try these again, see if we can't get these in a little bit of the right order.
What is your emergency?
Hello, I need an ambulance and the police. She's dead.
Okay, she's calling the police about finding her dead. This one.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Okay, she's already crying. It sounded like the police officer was making a call from their house. She called the police. She said, I need police and an ambulance. And then this one, where does this one fit in?
So you have no idea how this happened?
No, no idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No, it's like a small closet.
I mean, this sounds like this sequence, but it's a little weird that she calls in panic, says I need the police. Then the police is here and he's making a call.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
She's still distraught. And then here's where she's talking to the police saying it's just like a small closet. So these feel like the last items where she's calling in. Like these feel like a sequence here, the final sequence. And then it seems like that might be our best guess, right? Like here's where at the end of these first three chapters, this is where our girl Esther gets stuck and can't get out.
Please open. Please open.
Okay, so she gets stuck. Then the woman returns, calls the police. The police ask her about it. She's like, it's a closet. There's no way out. And that makes sense that the teacher is gone on vacation. That's why she hasn't come back for a while. So this is where she says there's no more lessons for a while, right? Because she's going on a trip.
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
Okay. No more lessons till further notice. So that's like the right before this end chapter. But what? This is like her dancing. These feel like all dancing. This feels like the end chapter. What was this one again?
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
Okay. Well, that sounds like when she's discovered her. Which means this would happen up here. Are we sure that we're supposed to do the first 3 chapters? Like, do we know that these are the first 3 chapters? Let's listen. 6 chapters. Each chapter starts with one of the 6 chapter tiles. Once you have solved all 6 chapters, one final challenge, put the chapters in the correct order. Okay, so it's not that these are the first... These aren't the first 3 chapters. It's just we've got 3 chapters worth of cards. So... And we have to be able to solve 3 chapters worth, right? Sorry to go back here. We have to solve 3 chapters worth before we turn over the cards. And then we do the others. So we don't know that these are the first 3 chapters, though. This sounds like this might be end chapter. This is where she gets locked in. This is where she goes on a trip. I mean, obviously that doesn't happen. She discovers the body. She calls the police. The police come and say they're going to check on something. I mean, we've got to check this. We're not 100% sure on that. But then this is where he's like, she's in a small closet. It almost sounds like the bag was checked. I want to listen to this again. Yeah, it's like she's getting her thing. I mean, if you had to guess, you might guess that that this was taken from some small, like almost like a traveling case that got checked, and that the woman checked it before she went on vacation. I don't know how this painting relates to anything. Here she is dancing. I mean, I guess the question is which 3 chapters. This feels like a chapter. This is her stuck in there and then breaking off the pieces when she's stuck. But might not be associated with this chapter. This paint and thing sure seems like it belongs to this chapter. Let's listen to this again. She's like making her way into something. We know that all the item cards are going to be used in the 3 chapters, but 3 of the chapters are not going to be actually used yet in our mystery. Where can I put these so you guys can see them better? So like one thing we could identify is which 3 are not used yet. Could be earlier or later.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
This is where she's showing her what we think is this.
Why did I take you?
So she's like back home, wondering why she stole this. Here she's going for her lesson. She's dancing. What was this?
I'm very hot.
I'll open the window.
I mean, that sounds like it's part of this story. She goes and shows her something. She goes for her lesson. They dance. They take a rest. She opens the window. Is it that the girl puts this little dancer out on the windowsill and then goes back and gets it? Boy, this sounds like they're dancing too, though.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
This one was just walking, right? There's her getting stuck. That rain, though, was also what we heard in this one.
Why did I take you?
Why did I take you? Oh, that's a little confusing. I mean, this chapter feels like when she's trying to return it, and I don't feel like we have the items for that, so I don't think that's part of our set of 3 for the first half. This sure looks like it belongs to this. This is why did I take you? This is her going away on a trip. I feel like that's not part of today's chapters. Again, this is her going on a trip. I don't feel like it's part of today's chapters. I don't really understand where this one comes in. That's almost like she's going back to her house to return it. I almost feel like that's also part of the next day's work. But these actually have to fit into today's. All these items have to fit into these 3 chapters. Could be the second day though. This is her coming home. Wow, that's tricky. Coming for the lesson, they dance.
Change into your shoes and we'll begin.
All right, she goes for the lesson. She begins, then she takes a break. And then what's the last card in that break? It has to be this, right? It has to be when she steals it. No, because here's where she shows it to her. Right? Here's where she says, I'm going to show you something.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
So this has to be part of this. But then what is this? Change into your shoes will start dancing. This is when they need a break, right?
I'm very hot.
I'll open the window.
And what is this? This one has no sounds. It's just a painting, right? Oh, she just opened the window. Okay. She just opened the window there. Maybe there are people painting outside. Comes for the lesson. They change into your shoes, will start dancing. Then she gets hot. I'm very hot. Open the window. They open the window. And they hear the window and they can see people painting outside. And then what? We're back for more dancing?
Time for a rest.
She's better.
Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
Let's just listen to this and make sure.
Thank you, Esther, for paying for today's lesson. Come in.
Comes back another day.
did I take you?
Okay. Let's listen to this one again. Make sure this is a separate second day.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
This issue with having the 6 chapters and not knowing which ones or in what order is very interesting. Like this is her coming back and she says, I'm going to show you something. But now, and this is when she gets stuck in the room stealing it or trying to return it. I'm pretty sure this is right, and I like this, but now I'm starting to think maybe this isn't right. Is it one of these? Let's listen to this again. So the key thing for us is that we've got these 4 possible chapters and 3 items here. So the question is, which of these 4 chapters do these 3 items match? These are all about her leaving. This is where she says no more lessons, right? For a while.
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
No more lessons till further notice. Okay, she's going on a trip. She's packing up. Maybe it's like this. Let's listen to this one. She's like, I'm thirsty, open the window. Then we were thinking this is her opening the window. They're still listening to the music. She's opening the window on a nice sunny day. That seems right. But it doesn't have to be. It could be that the day ends like this, with her at home.
Why did I take you?
She opens the window and the girl climbs up into it to take it? Is that what happens? The welcome mat is barely any information. It's like she's going back to her house to and what was this one? This is her climbing up to the window to steal this thing. Or to put it back. No more lessons for today, she tells her. And she's checking her stuff.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
It has to be these 9 item cards. This set does not make sense. She goes for the lesson. They dance. She's hot. She opens the window. Here's where she says, I have something to show you. So it makes sense. The thing she showed her was the ballerina and she stole it. But now why would... Here's where she discovers something's amiss. She calls the police. But now, I have something to show you. And then is it, she showed her, she stole it, and she asks herself why. Like this is near the very end of the case. She's come back, her medals are on the ground. She calls the police. She says, how could she have gotten in there? It's like a thing. Thank you for praying for today's lesson, Esther. I'm hot. Open the window. This is her climbing up to steal it. Wow, that's very confusing to me. Like, we know it's not this one, right? This is when she's getting herself locked in while trying to return it or steal it. So it's not going to be that one. This is her opening a window. But maybe to climb in, maybe not when this woman opened it. This is just her silently climbing up. But is it climbing up to return it? Like, is it this? Is she's climbing up to return it? Opens the window to get in. Here's where she's showing her something. She can't very well steal it. Unless I guess she could be saying, let me show you something, and then Esther knows she's not going to find it because she's already stolen it. What if that's it? What if she's going to show her something, but Esther's already stolen it? That would let us put this not here. Okay, what if? Let's just play with this. She goes for her first lesson. Or for all we know, this is here. And this is her first lesson, and here she's paying for it. But okay, either way. But she goes back to her house. And then the woman says, sorry, Esther, no more lessons for a while.
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
Remember, it doesn't have to be in order. There could be other chapters between it. But if that's the case, it's a nice day too. Airways, McLean. I mean, it feels like this doesn't belong. Really feels like this doesn't belong. This is where she says, let me show you something. Let's listen to these two again. Here's where she says she's hot, she wants a drink.
I'm very hot.
I'll open the window.
She opens the window. Okay, surely these three are in the right order. Probably this is our first lesson, though if we switched it, it would be fine. It would make sense that this would be next after the painting. She's trying the door to get in. She's having to climb, and it's raining. Maybe that's why the paint is wet. So I don't think this is happened yet. I don't think this card has happened yet. And this certainly hasn't happened yet. That's where she's getting locked in. So I feel pretty confident that these haven't happened yet. But then this is another lesson.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
It feels like she would show her this and then she would steal it. That's fine though. That could happen up here somewhere on a subsequent lesson. It's just that this one is her thinking about regretting why did she steal it, and it's raining.
Why did I take you?
She's come home to her house. She's regretting stealing her. She stole her back up here at this point when this one lady opened the window. Okay, so she steals it. She goes home. She regrets stealing it. She wants to return it. But the woman says there's no more lessons. Then what's this? I want to go back to... Can we listen to the thing again? Here she finds her dead. Let's listen to this one again.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
This may not necessarily be related. Like, this might not... Could this be anywhere else? Like, could this be her discovering that the thing is missing? Then that wouldn't make sense for this to be over here. Why did I steal it, she's saying. She goes home, why did I steal it? Then the woman tells her no more lessons. Where could this pot... Cloud Airways. McLean, is that Esther's name? Is that the house we're in? Are we in their house? She's packing. Or unpacking. I don't understand how we're supposed to know this order here. This sounds like she's coming back.
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
She's discovered the body. She's called the police. Let's listen to this one again.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Doesn't sound like Esther. I was thinking, is this Esther's book? But it doesn't sound like the kid crying. It certainly sounds like the woman.
Why did I take you?
This one's really throwing me. Why did I take you? Maybe it's just the woman's on her trip. All right. Let's see what happens when we try to solve it with these. Let's start. Okay, 6 chapters. You test the theory. You should try to solve the sequence of items for one specific chapter. So we're going to say solve. We're going to start down here. So first we scan the chapter marker. Okay. Then we scan the next card. No. Let's see. Solve. Scan the chapter marker, then scan the 3 items. Let's try this again. We scan this. Okay. Then we scan this. Then we scan this. Then we scan this. Chapter incorrect. All cards belong to this chapter, but they're in the wrong order. So these are correct, but they're in the wrong order. Well, it's got to be this, right? Because this is just her crying. This is when she calls the police. Okay, so we just, this is going to be her second one. Oh, we're still in solve, sorry. Let's just make sure. That was a little careless.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Does that make sense? She's crying. Someone says we'll get back to you.
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance. And the police. She's dead.
So you have no idea how this happened?
No. No idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
I mean, she's not crying by the time she gets here. But she wouldn't need to call. It almost seems like, okay, she comes in here, she discovers something's missing, or she comes
My
home.
medals have fallen. What's happened?
She opens it up. She sees a dead body. Then
Okay, we'll get back to you.
she opens it up. She's terrified.
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance. And the police. She's dead.
Is this the order we already scanned in? I feel like it might have been. Wish I could go back. Let's try it again. Are we going to get the same complaint? That. Then this. I feel like I don't remember if this is the same order. Same thing we just did before. That's a little frustrating. Here's where she calls for the police. Here's just a guy talking to her. And this is the guy saying...
So you
Is
have
that
no
the
idea
police
how this
station?
happened?
No. No idea.
And
So
you
it
say
just
there are
has
no
to be
windows in
this.
the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
There's two possibilities. Either it's this, and I don't know what this is, or she's going to the police first, but she already was screaming when she read this, so it has to be this. It's just a little weird. Oops.
My medals.
Medals are on the ground. Let's try this order. Okay. We're getting a little bit on tilt then. This shouldn't be this hard. She comes home.
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
She's devastated. Surely she's discovered a body. So what? This comes next? She was terrified and crying, and now she's
So you have no idea how this happened?
No.
calm.
No idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
And then one of these?
Okay, we'll get back to you.
your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance. And the police. She's dead.
That's so confusing. I mean, surely she's calling the police, but we tried these two orders. Is there something we're not understanding about the rules of this game? Okay, she comes home. Her medals are on the ground. She must be upset not at finding a dead body, but at her thing being missing. So then she calls the police, who say they don't know how it could have happened. Just kind of sort of...
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
Okay, I'm sort of flailing around because I'm afraid something is going wrong with my understanding of how this game is played. So we're going to try this in case. She comes home, the medals are found, she opens it up, she starts breaking down in tears. But it's not the body. It's her thing is missing. So she goes to the police, who say, how could someone have gotten in and stolen it? Then later she calls the police.
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance. And the police. She's dead.
Then what does that come before or after this?
Okay, we'll get back to you.
She doesn't know how it could have happened. Then she discovers the body. Calls the police. Then the guy says, we'll get back to you. Wow, that's just... We've tried every combination. It's like... Okay. She comes home, her medals are on the ground. She calls the police and says something's been stolen. Then they come over and he says something, and then she calls and says she needs an ambulance. Okay, guys, come on. I've done it in every possible way, have I not? Or is this not making sense? All cards belong to this chapter, but they are in the wrong order. Have we not tried every order? Yeah, this is what I was afraid of. This is why we're getting frustrated. I believe we've tried every order, right? 3 cards. Should be 6 orders. this always comes first. Maybe we haven't tried all 6. So if we get a hint, it will tell us which ones are in the wrong order. It just seems crazy that we would get the chapter right, but have so much trouble with the order. Well, that's the nature of these games.
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
I've been assuming that the chapter always starts out. Each chapter starts with one of the 6 marker tiles. I mean, I assume this happens first and then these. All right, I think maybe we take a break, walk around, clear our head before we continue this random ordering and see if we can't make some sense after a bit of a break. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, we're back. Taking a long break, had dinner, went out to friends. Now we're back. I've zoomed out the camera a little bit, the top-down camera, so we can see a little better. But we're still as confused as we were before about these last 3. So let's go back to the app here. Let's scan these 4 again and listen to them and see if we can't make sense out of this. We know this comes first. It has to come first. That's the rule.
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
So she's walked into something, seen her medals fallen, and then she opens up a case or a room or a door, whatever. She breaks out, terrified, crying. Okay. Then we've got a phone, a police constable card, and a tap dance book. So let's just listen to these in order.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Okay, I get it now. This is someone leaving. So that's the last card, I think. So I think here's her making a phone call.
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance and the police. She's dead.
Opens, sees a dead person, makes the call. Police come.
So you have no idea how this happened?
No. No idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
And then he says, we'll get back to you. All right. I'm ready to guess again. Boy, I hope this is right. I really do. All right. So first comes this. Then comes make the call to the police. Then the police come. And then the police leave. Okay. All right, so for those of you watching me get it wrong over and over again, that must have been frustrating if this was clear to you. I don't know what this has to do, but yeah, this was the police leaving. Okay, and now do we get to hear it all together?
My medals have fallen. What's happened?
What is your emergency?
Hello? I need an ambulance. And the police. She's dead.
So you have no idea how this happened?
No. No idea.
And you say there are no windows in the room?
No. It's like a small closet.
Okay, let's go take a look.
Why was she in here?
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Okay, so when we listened to the entire chapter, we actually got more information, we heard more audio. So that's going to be a chapter towards the end. Let's put this over here somewhere, where we can see it, I guess. All right, now these, which we're less sure of. Let's do this top one first, yeah? All right, let's try to solve this. So we're going to click solve. We're going to listen to this. I guess we don't have to listen to it, we just do it. So when she came to the door, she said, "Thanks for paying me." This looked like their first lesson. Then she said, "I'm so hot." Then this is the one that seemed a little weird to us because it matched the color of this, but this sounded like when she was opening the window. Oh, that's nice. We got that one right on the first shot. Okay, let's listen to it.
Thank you, Esther, for paying for today's lesson. Come in. Change into your shoes and we'll begin.
Time passes.
I'm very hot.
I'll open the window. Oh, drat. I've gotten paint on my dress.
Miss McLean, I think I've got the buffalo turn. Look. It's my favorite.
Ah, Esther, you're a bonny lass, and we'll make a bro dancer for sure.
Thank you, Miss McLean.
Okay. She opened the window. The window is being painted, so she got some paint on her. That looks like one of the first chapters. This is one of the last. Okay, this one. This is a real confusion one. We think this is when she's climbing up through the window. This is when she's locked in some case. This seems like when she's going back for a normal lesson. These seem to be all about the person. We know we have to, these three are in the chapter we're working on now. So it's just a question of what chapter do these three things go in? This is her saying they're leaving town. I don't know when I'm going to give you another lesson. This was her saying, why did I take this? Airways claim check. This one was confusing. It sounded like maybe she was getting back from her trip. Very confusing to me. But this is about taking a tap dancing lesson. That's not really associated with these. This is about being trapped in a case. This doesn't seem associated with these. This is, she's gotten some paint on her shoes, Esther's the girl's shoes. I don't remember what this one sounds like. I'm just going to go, oh, yeah, we did listen to that, right? Yeah. I want to listen to this one. What does this one say? It's raining. Okay, yeah, this is raining when she's climbing in the window to steal it or put it back. So I think what we're looking at here, however these three go, these three are about Esther being at home regretting stealing it and the teacher going away on a trip. So I don't think those are these. That's why I think it's this. I think this is Esther getting home. She happened to steal this while she was in her home. Then she's trying to return it. This I don't really get. Cloud Airways. I wish we could listen to the introduction to this case to know whose house this is, but they're on a trip. It makes sense she would tell her about I almost feel like she's planning on going on a trip. Then the girl climbed in her window to return it, got locked in the case that she checked. But this is when she tells Esther that she can't have any more lessons. So that has to be before all this. So, yeah, I'm really not sure, but let's go for this. Let's see what happens. This is the one I'm least sure about. No, it's not even going to tell. Oh, sorry, that was listen. Was this one in rain? They do seem like the same sounds.
Why did I take you?
It's getting rainy. Starting to rain. And this one? That's our teacher locking up that chest, locking the room to leave or something. And then this one's not in the rain, is it?
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
So it could be like this. She could be coming to Esther's house to return it. She says no more lessons. Now she's like, why did I take this? Or it could be that she's gotten home and she says, why did I take this? I'm starting to think it's like this. She comes to her door. She says, no more lessons. Now she's like, why did I take this? Now I'll never be able to return it. These could be in any order. This one, not raining?
Why did I take you?
Yeah, I really don't know, but I'm going to put this order. Alright, let's try to solve it. We'll mess with this order if we need to. So we think she's going to her house or the teacher's house. All cards belong to this chapter, but they are in the wrong order. Okay, so that's nice. At least we know it is this that goes with these 3 cards. Maybe it's this then. So Esther goes home, now we're thinking. She's sitting here saying, why did I take this? So she calls up her teacher to try to make an appointment, and the teacher says, sorry Esther, I'm going on a trip. And then here she is preparing for her trip. Incorrect. This is the beginning of this chapter, the beginning of this game all over again, where we've got 3 cards, we know they belong, and we just cannot figure out what order they're supposed to be in. Alright, this one just, I don't understand, like this one I don't get. She's checking something in the airport. Alright, let's say this. It's a little frustrating that I feel like we're just shooting in the dark, trying to brute force these orders, because it feels like they could go in any order to me. It's like the same thing all over again. She walks to her house or the teacher's house. We have no idea. Sounds like this comes next. She's regretting stealing it. Feel like we did the other one in the other order, so we'll do this one in this order. Come on, guys. now I feel like the game is see if you can remember what random permutations you've already checked out. So I feel like we did the ballet. So we know we did the ballet dancer, the claim check, and the railroad ticket. There's 6 possibilities. I feel like we did ballet, train, and then claim, but I guess we got to try it again because I don't remember. At least it recognizes it. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna get a hint because this is just stupid. But I'd love to. So we've done the ballet claim first. That's wrong. This is the one that makes no sense to us. Let me scan this one again and see if it's any information. She's packing. Like we hear her opening up that closet. Sorry, we hear her opening up the closet room. Maybe that comes next. Packing. She tells Esther she's going on a trip, and then Esther's lamenting, why did she steal this?
Oh, Esther, no more lessons until further notice.
Why, Miss McLean?
I believe one of my students stole something, and it has upset me greatly. So I'm going away for a while. I'm not sure I want to teach anymore.
Oh,
Is there something you want to say, Esther?
No, I'm sorry to hear that, Miss McLean. Have a good trip. Why did I take you?
All right, well, it's a bit frustrating because, like, it's telling us that the teacher told her she's going on a trip because she's upset someone stole it. And then Esther's like, why did I steal you? But is there any reason the story wouldn't make just as much sense as saying Esther's feeling bad that she stole this and tries to bring it back, and the teacher said, sorry, I happen to be going on a trip, so I can't take it back? Maybe. And then this doesn't make any sense to me. It's an airline claim check. Why would you do that first before this? And there's no audio to speak of that gives us any relevance to that. Is she packing her suitcase and happens to find that? But anyway, why would this come first? I don't get. But okay. That's a little frustrating. It doesn't make much sense to me. All right. Well, we finished the first half of the chapters. So we know the next 3 chapters are this. So in that sense, it's easier. These chapters are done, but we don't know in what order, except we kind of do. We know this came last. We know this is earlier than this, but we don't know. This seems like the first chapter, middle chapter. This seems like the end chapter. All right, let's get out our 9 new cards. Got a broken door handle, taxi, cross, it's like a door knocker, torn skirt, perhaps, key, more keys, a lock box, and a broken trophy. Okay, this is her climbing in through the window. This is her getting stuck, and this is her having more lessons. These can be off to the side. Where do we think these stories come in? I mean, I guess if we think she's stuck in one, this seems like it might be the... We've got her climbing through a window and then getting stuck. So, like, stuck has to come last in this sequence, right? And knocking over the trophy. Like, this is her getting stuck trying to break out. The handle comes off in her hand. Not sure about this one. Then she knocks over the medals and prizes that are on the shelf. That makes sense. But now climbing in through the window, not sure. These sure look like they go together. Alright, well, let's listen to some of these sounds and see if we can make sense of it.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me.
I feel like it would make sense that the thing she showed her was that doll, opens the keys to the door, then opens the keys to this chest that has something. So let's just listen to things and see if that makes sense to us.
Come on, open, you stupid box. Oh no.
Okay, well that's definitely not that. This is her trying to open a box with these wrong keys. Maybe getting stuck. So maybe... maybe down here. I'm not sure. All right, we're still looking for when she says, let me show you something nice. Let's see if she's using this key.
Ah.
Yeah, okay, so she's opening the key to show her this. What comes first, the box or the key?
Esther, are you still up there? Let's continue the lesson.
Coming, Miss McLean.
Well, that's a little confusing. She says, let me show you something.
Ah.
Seems like she would show her this. But then this is when she's all alone, looking at it again.
Esther, are you still up there? Let's continue the lesson.
Coming, Miss McLean.
Okay, so maybe she shows it to her. On a future date, she goes and looks at it again, or later, and then she takes it. Alright, let's see what this is all about.
Somebody help me, please. Somebody get me out of here.
Okay, well here she's stuck in this box down here. And this is her trying to get into the room. She's stuck. We don't know the order of these. Alright, let's see what this one's about. Or maybe we're more likely to get this right. Let's do this first.
Please open. Please open.
Yeah, that sounds like she's stuck in there.
It won't break. It won't break.
It won't break. The door won't break. Then she's like, please someone get me out of here. She's praying. And what's this one? Yeah, she's smashing around. I mean, I guess you pray at the end when you've tried everything else. It won't break. I don't know what order these two come in. This seems like what she would pray at the end. These were her trying to get open the door. What's this one all about?
Very old. Ah, that'll be my coal delivery. You can look some more. Just put it back on that shelf when you're done.
Okay, well this is her showing. She says, let me show you something. She opens it up. And there's a knock on her door. Then this is Esther, come on down to resume the lessons. So is this Esther Climbing up the window? Taking a taxi?
To the train station, please.
Well, this is our woman going on her trip. What was this? Kind of sounds like after she climbed into the window, she was trying to open it. Yeah.
Come on, open, you stupid box. Oh no.
She shows her the figurine. There's a knock on the door, so she goes down. She says, Esther, you can look around. I want to look at this more. She is talking to Esther in this one, right?
Very old. Ah, that'll be my coal delivery. You can look some more. Just put it back on that shelf when you're done.
Right. Okay, and then this one.
Esther, are you still up there? Let's continue the lesson.
Coming, Miss McLean.
That seems pretty clear. She showed it to her. She unlocked it. She gets a knock on the door. Call delivery or whatever. Then she calls Esther, come down, stop playing with it. Esther steals it. Then Esther regrets having stolen it. Hope these are, I want to make sure, I want to keep these in the right order. Yeah, okay. Then we think Esther climbs back in. She can't get it open. She hears someone. She goes and she hides in the traveling trophy case of this woman. Then what happens? The taxi comes? Or in the room. She hides in the room.
To the train station, please.
Yeah, so then Esther, I think, does this lead directly into that? Yeah, it's raining. She's trying to get it open.
Come on, open, you stupid box. Oh no.
She hears her coming to get her box or her possession, her luggage. She hides in the room. The woman comes, gets her stuff. And our girl is locked in a room. She can't get out. And meanwhile, this woman is leaving in the room.
To the train station, please.
And this is going to be her dress got caught on the window on the way in. It's raining.
Hello? Is anyone there?
I don't know. So this is her coming in the window. Now she's inside, trying to get the box open. And here she is getting the box open. And then this is our woman hears something. The teacher hears something.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Which is what makes her run and hide in the other room. Then the taxi comes and calls her away. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Now let's listen to these again. Now our girl is locked in.
Please open. Please open.
We don't know which of these happen next. So she's locked into the room. Does this happen next?
It won't break. It won't break.
She can't get the door to break. She says it won't break. So maybe this happens next, how she's banging against the door. She's trying to kick the door open. She's knocking everything off. Then she says it won't break, it won't break. And then she gives up hope and starts praying.
Somebody help me, please. Somebody get me out of here.
Okay, I feel pretty good about this set. We could start with any of them. Let's start with this top one then. Okay, so that was correct. Let's listen to it.
Time for a rest. Change out of your tap shoes and I'll show you a wee thing I think you'll like. Follow me. What I want to show you is in here.
Gee, there are so many medals on the door, Miss McLean.
Aye,
Medals on the
lass,
door.
for dancing competitions.
Why is it locked?
Because there are valuable things in here. I was out doing my shopping before your lesson, and I always lock this store when I go out. Now, look at this.
Ah. Oh, what a pretty dancer.
Yes, this belonged to my grandmother. It's very old. Ah, that'll be my coal delivery. You can look some more. Just put it back on that shelf when you're done.
Okay, so she says, I
So
always lock the
pretty.
door when I leave.
Do you come out, I wonder? Yes!
Esther, are you still up there? Let's continue the lesson.
Coming, Miss McLean!
So she's stolen it. The one thing I'm a little confused about is she goes in the window, she can't get the thing to open. I don't understand this ripped dress. What is that? I want to listen to this again.
Hello? Is anyone there?
Yeah, I don't quite understand. I mean, the woman's there. She's hiding because the woman has heard something coming upstairs. And then this is the woman's taxi, right? Has come to take her away.
To the train station, please.
She's locked up and now she's going to the train. Alright. Let's do this one first. So she's locked in the room. She can't get out. She's kicking the door, knocking trophies off the wall. That doesn't work. Here she's lamenting that she can't break the door down. Then she's giving up and praying. Okay, so that's correct. Let's listen.
Please open! Please open! Please open! Please open! It won't break! It won't break! Please come back soon, Miss McLean. Please. Somebody help me, please. Somebody get me out of here.
Okay, now there's this chapter. So she climbs through the window. So it could be in this order, right? It could be she tears her dress on the window. But it seems more likely this is the one where she's like, is anyone in there? And then the taxi's there. So these orders could be swapped. We'll try it this way first because I think the woman hears her trying to use the keys. Don't know why there's a ripped dress, but the woman comes into the room to look for her and our girl hides in the closet. Then the taxi comes and takes the woman away. No. Okay, well then I'm guessing it's this order. Let's listen to these keys again.
Come on, open, you stupid box. Oh no.
That's her locking her in. So taxi has to be after that. So it has to be this order. So shoes. Then she gets her dress caught and the woman hears. Then the woman must leave the room. Then she tries to unlock. Then the taxi comes. I'm a little confused. Okay. This one was a little... This part was the weird part. But okay, let's listen to this chapter. She opens the window and sneaks in, gets the paint on her shoe. Maybe gets her dress caught in the window.
Hello? Is anyone there? Ah, this old house always creaking.
Locks her in at that point. Now our girl is trying to open the
Come
box.
on, open, you stupid box.
Doesn't realize she's been locked in.
Oh no.
Or now she's being locked in. Now our woman goes in the taxi. Realizes she's locked in.
Wait, Miss McLean! Miss McLean, don't go yet! I'm in here!
To the train station, please.
Okay. Alright, now we're supposed to put these 6 chapters in order to finalize the mystery. So, she goes for her lesson, right? Then she says, then the teacher shows her the dancing ballerina. Then the teacher says, I think we put this in the wrong order, yeah. Then the teacher says, sorry, no more lessons, Esther. One of my students stole a ballerina and I don't think I want to teach anymore with such bad students. Then Esther tries to break in the house and return the ballerina and gets locked in. Then she's stuck in this little closet room and the teacher goes away on the trip. Then she's stuck. She tries to bust herself out. She can't, gives up, prays. Then the teacher comes back and discovers the girl is dead in her closet. Okay, let's solve the entire thing. So now we scan all chapters. Go for your first lesson. Get shown the ballerina. Regret taking a ballerina. Teacher is disappointed in you, is going on a trip to clear her mind. Try to sneak in to return the ballerina. Get locked in the closet and you can't get out and pray that someone finds you. Teacher comes back to find the dead body. Congratulations, you have solved the mystery. Press play to listen to the epilogue.
Esther Berlin's ghost haunts Chall House, and you have learned the full story behind her tragic death. Harry and Claire have been staying with family. After a week, they tell you they could still live in Chall House, but only if Esther Borland is now truly at peace. I sense she is not, you say, but now I think I can see what is tying her to this world. I will tell you what needs to be done. That evening, following your instructions, Harry returns to Chall House and finds the old music box. Esther Borland died trying to return the stolen dancer to its rightful place, but she couldn't open the music box, and the dancer remained separated. Luckily, the Finchers kept not only the box and dancer, but also the matching key. Now, finally, Harry can do what Esther never managed to. Taking the dancer, he pushes it into place. Harry Fincher would always remember how, at that moment, the room filled with a sense of happiness and peace, and he was sure he could hear music and tapping. He closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them, he saw the ghostly figure of a teenage girl moving around the room, twirling and leaping with sheer joy. As she moved in front of him, she paused, and for a brief moment, his eyes met hers. Reaching out, she took the music box in her hands, and with a smile, slowly pushed it closed.
Okay. So let's talk about it. It would be nice to know, to be reminded what the price of these are. That would sort of make a difference, right? It's a short game. It lists it as 60 minutes. We surely took more than 60 minutes. In fact, probably took closer to 2 hours, which is about right for us. Double the time on the box for these kinds of games. That's it. That's the complete box. That's obviously you couldn't play this again, but you could pass it along. So I would say, my initial gut feeling is that was a very fun, totally novel experience. It did feel like a tabletop game. You're only using the app to check your answers and get feedback. But most of the time, you're sitting here playing with these cards. So, a new, fun tabletop experience. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that it was a fun story. It wasn't super deep, but it was a nice little epilogue. A nice, short, compact little story. It made sense, and the acting was good, and the audio was good. So, satisfying. Not super deep. This is not a 12-hour campaign. It's just a short little game. And fun. Definitely fun. And it's fun to be working with these physical pieces and moving them around. Okay. Before I get into the part that gave us trouble, the part that I didn't like, let's talk about sort of the deductive mystery solving part of this. There are actually two parts of this that are clever. They're related. And that are quite satisfying and clever. The main one is the fact that you're doing constraint satisfaction, where it's actually quite interesting, where you've got 6 chapters, 3 items per chapter, but they've got this way to make it a little bit easier. So you only told to look at the first 9 cards. You know those first 9 cards split up into 3 chapters, right? So it's a little bit easier than if you had all 18 cards face up. Although the game tells you can absolutely play for a harder game with all 18 face up. And maybe we would do that in the future. But I guess what I'm saying is the part that was fun, that felt a little strategic, was the part where you're saying, well, I'm not sure if these 3 go together. But if they go together, then that affects what's available for these other chapters. So you're kind of saying, well, this is my best guess here. Now, does that violate some constraint somewhere else? If I know this can't go with this, if I know this has to go after this, then that makes another chapter more likely. And there were cases, it was vague enough, that's kind of a hard thing to get to balance right, where they're not super easy, where you're saying, well, if these 2 go here, then that means this one can't go up here, which means this one has to go up here. And so it's got that other little flavor of, well, we know this one, we feel most confident about this chapter, so let's try this chapter first and narrow down the possibilities for the subsequent chapters. And so that was very satisfying. It was extremely satisfying to be like, well, like we thought this paint matches this, right? But then that didn't work for us. Like, if these were to go together, then it broke something else. So there were nice occasions when we, by solving a little bit of these constraints, eliminating certain possibilities, it made others more likely. So that was enjoyable. And there were little sound background hints that helped a little. Like when we heard the rain, it tended to be that the transitions in the background sound lined up. It wasn't 100%, and it didn't guarantee any unique solutions, but it helped. Keep things together. And this whole thing about listening to the chapters and then the audio fills in a little bit extra, just a little bit between the sections that helps fill it in, means that this mystery is gradually unfolding and gradually clarifying. That's very satisfying. And I like the pacing where you're doing 3 chapters and then another 3 chapters, and then it's very clever that you're then ordering the chapters. Now, ordering those chapters was sort of a given once we made sense of the story. Maybe you could hope for there to be more of a puzzle there, but I didn't feel that way. I felt like by the time we got to the end, it was okay that ordering the chapters was more of like a satisfying use of our knowledge rather than a mystery to be solved by us. Okay, so Dave Neal's done it again. Good story, nice pacing, satisfying mystery. Now, having said that, and the audio production was great. It felt like we're in a little play, in a little audio play. Now, there were 2 chapters that we got really hung up on. One really hung up on. Now, not a single time did we have the items not in the correct chapter. So every single thing we solved, we had the right chapter with the right 3 items belonging to that chapter. But there were 2 times when it seemed very ambiguous to us what the order of the items in that chapter should be. Now, one I didn't feel too bad about. That was this one. So the second time we hit trouble was this set here. This was walking to the welcome mat, which basically had no story, just someone walking to a welcome mat. The person saying, I don't teach anymore, I'm going on a trip. Her saying, I regret stealing the ballerina. And then this one that didn't have any words was just an airplane claim check, which I didn't really understand at all. I mean, she was going on a train, not an airplane. So it felt like, so I believe if we remember, the story was, this could have been Esther going home or going to the teacher's house. No way to know, right? But I think the way we thought it, the way the solution was I don't remember if it was like this or like this. But the point was, the teacher said, when we listened to the final story, not when we listened to the clues. When we listened to the clues, she just said, I'm going on a trip. I won't be teaching soon. So this was just walk to a door. This was, I'm going on a trip. I won't be teaching soon. This was just a silent locking up. And this was our girl regretting that she had taken this. And it seemed very ambiguous. Like you could make the story work in either way. You could make her going home, regretting taking it, talking to the teacher saying, I'm leaving town. So then she decides she'll sneak back in and leave it. Or I think the way the story wanted it was, when we actually listened to this and it filled in extra stuff, this was the teacher saying, I'm going on a trip because someone stole something. And then our girl regretted taking it. And I don't remember if this ever said anything. So that was very ambiguous and unsatisfying what the order was. And then this one we got completely hung up on. And I think I probably tried every combination until the last one. And so I guess what it was she came home. She found the medals on the floor. And then she started crying hysterically. So she discovered the body. Then in this one she called. And she was quite upset and said, I need a police and an ambulance. And then in this one, she's talking to the police and seeming very calm. Then here she is crying again. And I guess the police are leaving. Makes a little bit more sense, but boy, the tone really threw us. It seemed like this tone was at the end. Like maybe she called, the police officer came to take her statement or something, and then she went and visited the police at the end. I think what happened was we thought this one was at the end. I'm not sure exactly why we got hung up on this order so much, but I think it might have been just that this didn't seem like it was happening at the end. But it was the police saying, we'll be in touch. Something like that. So maybe we shouldn't have been so confused by this order. But I think you could summarize both of the problems we had. And both of the real frustrations. It was quite frustrating to try all these different combinations and have them keep saying incorrect, incorrect, incorrect. But you could summarize the problem we had was within a chapter, having identified the 3 items for the chapter, it sometimes felt like you could make the case that they should have been in a little different micro order, and it wouldn't make much of a difference, or it was plausible either way. Although, again, looking at this now, it doesn't seem too large a stretch. And if you had taken the hint, I guess it would have said these 2 are in the wrong order, and then maybe you would have known. I'm not sure if that's fixable in some way or if it needs to be fixable, but it was frustrating to keep trying different orders. And I mean, that's some of these detective games that happens when you play them solo. Sometimes when you have someone else, they can say, okay, stop, pause, slow down, let's think about it. Sometimes when you're on your own, you're like, let me just try to brute force this and try these different combinations. In summary, nice, fresh, very clever, very enjoyable new system. I mean, it's nice to be able to listen and focus on those audio recordings, and they were done so well that it was a pleasure to listen to it, like listening to an old audio play. And it felt fun. It felt a little bit of an activity on the activity side of things versus hardcore deductive mystery. We were never sitting there thinking sort of long range planning like sometimes you do in Sherlock Holmes. You're like, well, if this one person did this one, then they went over here and did this. This was a little bit more of a tactical feel, but very satisfying, very fun. Would make a great evening activity for a kid, but obviously suitable for adults too. Dave Neal did very well once again. I'm looking forward to trying the other box. There's a third box that hasn't come out yet, I don't think. And yeah, maybe we'll play the next box on camera as well. And I'll see you next time.